This is video 2.1, Congruent Figures. So our goal is to take what we discussed in class and to condense it down into our notes so that we understand the properties of congruent figures. So first off, where our conversation started in class was the idea of what congruent means. And basically congruent gets down to the idea that two shapes are congruent if they are the same size and the same shape. Okay, and the same shape is not enough. That even though like these two triangles here are the same shape, they're not the same size. So both things have to be characteristics of the shapes we're looking at. Same size and same shape. So the way we determine whether or not two shapes are congruent is that the corresponding angles should be the same measure, like for example here B and E, and all the other corresponding angles, as well as all the matching sides, which we call corresponding sides, like AC line segment and this line segment DF. And so if all the angles and all the sides have the same measure, then they are considered congruent. Now, how do we show that visually? Well, let's take a look at the next slide. So once again, congruent figures means same size, same shape. And so the way we denote that visually is we actually put markings on our pictures. Now, let's assume that these triangles A, B, C, D, E, F are congruent. Then the way that I would show that both the size and the shape are the same is to show that the angles and the sides are all the same measure. So as far as the size goes, what we can do is we can mark them in the same manner. And the way we do that is with these little, I guess you call them tick marks. So for example, hopefully you see that AB right here, that if I rotate my paper, is the same as side DE. So the way we would mark that and actually show that geometrically would be we'd put a little tick mark right here and then the same mark here. And so what this is saying is that the measurement of line segment AB is the same as the measurement of line segment DE. And then you just continue in the same manner. BC, if I rotate my paper, is congruent to EF, and so the way I'd mark that is I'd put two tick marks here and here. And then of course the third side, AC and DF, we just do it with a third symbol with three tick marks. Okay, so that's how you denote that sides are congruent or the same measure. Now as far as the angles go, well, angle A would correspond with angle D. So to show that those are the same measurements, we do something similar, except instead of these tick marks, you put a little arc. So here's A, and then here's D. The next set of congruent angles would be B and E. So just like with the tick marks, I want to show that it's different from angle A, so I'd still use these arcs, but in this case I'm going to do two of them. Same thing with E. I'll just put two of them over here. And of course, C and F correspond and are congruent. So that'd be just three arcs and three arcs here. And so that's how we show how parts are congruent and correspond. So one thing this allows us to do is that if we are told from the get-go that two figures are congruent, like in this shape, quadrilateral ABCD, and quadrilateral WXYZ, if I'm told ahead of time that they're congruent, then that also says that tells me that when I match up the corresponding angles and the corresponding sides, those angles and side pairs will be congruent as well. So for example, let's say I asked you to list out all the corresponding angles. Well, you would have to say, well, angle A corresponds or matches with which angle down here. So if you take a look, they've oriented these two quadrilaterals the same direction, so A corresponds with W. Which one would B correspond with? Angle B. Well, hopefully you're thinking angle X. And then what would be the other two pairs of corresponding angles? Well, it'd be angle C and angle Y, and angle D and angle Z. So these are our corresponding or matching angles. And notice how we write this. This is the symbol for angle. Notice it's a little bit different. It looks like a less than symbol, but notice how the bottom of the symbol is flat across the bottom. Okay, it's really easy to get the two confused, so make sure you're writing your angle symbols like this and less than symbols as we've seen them before. All right, corresponding sides. Now, how we want to do this is, well, match up the sides. But the sides aren't labeled, only the angles are labeled. So the way we would do this is, let's say I'm trying to find the corresponding side to this side that starts off at A and ends off with B. Well, that'd be this side here, this side that starts at W and goes to X. So the way we write that is we want line segment AB. And we call it a line segment because in geometry, a line continues forever. And since there's no double arrows here showing that this goes on forever, we call this a line segment. It starts and it stops at A and B. And so we'd write it like this. Side AB and side WX, or sometimes you'll see it like this. Instead of side AB, they'll put a little line above AB, a line segment, and a line segment above WX. Either way, that's fine, although you'll see this more often in future assignments. All right, what about line segment BC? Which side does that correspond with? Well, hopefully you're looking at the diagram down here and you're saying it corresponds with XY. And then see if you can label our last two pairs of corresponding sides. Well, it should be this bottom side here, YZ and CD, and this side here, AD and WZ. And so those are corresponding sides. And so that's pretty much it. It's this idea that two congruent shapes have the same shape and same size, and because of that, then all its parts are also congruent shapes as long as I can match them or correspond them.